Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FEMIN-ICT Role Models Collection interview series. Thank you for joining us today. FEMIN-ICT is a project that seeks to increase women's visibility and empowerment in the ICT and digital economy, driving in this way economic growth and wider social progress. My name is Magda Bakali. I work at Stimuli for Social Change, and we are a partner in the FEMIN-ICT project, and I will be the interviewer today. I would like to introduce you to the woman whose story and career we are celebrating today with this interview. Hello, Marie.
Hello, wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Could you please briefly introduce yourself and your journey in the ICT sector? What motivated you to pursue a career in this field?
Well, I'm an engineer within product development, and I started studying here in Stockholm, where I live and I grew up. And why I chose engineering is, well, it sort of came as a surprise to me, to be honest. I didn't have a clear understanding of what an engineer does. This was definitely not the long-term plan that I was working towards. It just sneaked up on me, to be honest. And I had a friend of my sister who studied the same program. So I gave it a try. And then throughout my studies, I realized how great this was, what a good match it was, and what the broad career options that I had when finishing. So it was a bit of a surprise that this turned out to be my path in life. But I'm very happy with it today.
Great. I would like to ask, what would you suggest to young girls who want to work in the ICT sector? Do you have any advice?
Well, I think a problem that we're facing in terms of ICT, and I traditionally look at the STEM fields like the science and technology, engineering and mathematics. Of course, that's more my perspective, but I think this has, they are interlinked. I think a very common problem that we're having here is that girls don't tend to see this as an option. It's obviously very male-dominated areas, unfortunately, because there are the need for innovation and creativity and diversity in thinking in these areas is huge and just growing. Technology is just, I'm punching down open doors now, but it's just, becoming even more and more important in every industry. I think you can approach any company, tech company or not, they're going to have an engineering organization today. So they pop up everywhere. So I think it's much bigger opportunities for your career than you might think. So my advice would be to be open-minded and not think that this is not for you. If it sounds fun, if you're curious, then go ahead and explore it.
Very nice. So you as a woman in a male-dominated sector for the most part, have you faced any challenges, any obstacles, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I mean, to some extent, I don't know the alternative. This is all I know. So, but sure, I've always been surrounded by male colleagues, mostly, some women here and there, mostly they're in communication or HR or other functional fields, non-tech fields. So I think mostly I've tried to see the fact that I stand out in the crowd in this particular sense. I try to see it as an advantage because people see me and hear me, but it's not often always that I'm being listened to, of course. So that, I guess, that would be a challenge that I've faced on and off throughout my career. And to really take up the space in the room, to lean forward. I don't know if you've read that book from, what's her name? Lean In, yeah. I think that was such a great book in the sense that it's really about leaning in at the table. And it took me some years to do that. So yeah, I wish I had the confidence to do it earlier. But anyway, here I am.
Now you give me a good way to move to the next question. I was going to ask, what are some notable accomplishments or projects that you have been involved in your sector, and how do you feel they have made a positive impact?
Well, I think that actually why you were recommended to contact me is due to what I'm working with today. So even though I have my engineering background and I've worked with product development for more than a decade, but alongside with my studies, me and a classmate, we started an organization that we chose to call Women Engineer, because we realized that we were a small group of women studying engineering, and when we looked around, we realized that it was not only within our particular program or at our particular university. This was a broad tendency or a trend. So we thought that was really a problem, because 2 years in our studies, we really started realizing how great this education was, and the fact that we were going to be facing a lot of great career opportunities when we would get out and be ready with finish our studies. So we started Women Engineer with the purpose to try to inspire and inform girls about engineering, because we reasoned that many girls, including myself, didn't know what an engineer actually do. So we thought, if we can try to define this, try to scope it in, and explain what an engineer actually do. Not only, you can study programming and learn how to code, but maybe that's not actually the end game here. The interesting aspect, as I see it, would be, what can you do with that code, and what impact can an engineer have in the society at large? So information, we thought that was a really a big topic, and that was many girls were lacking this regarding the engineering field. Not only what you can do, but also who you can be to become it. Many would just disregard it as an option, because they thought, this is only for guys. I need to be the best in my class in mathematics, for example. But that's definitely not true. So information, key, but also inspiration. So in the sense, and that's what I really like with your project that you're doing now, you're highlighting role models and putting the spotlight on people who are, walking a different path than the majority. And I think that's really important, to highlight those role models and show that, look at what this woman has done. If she can do it, then probably I can do it as well. So that's what we've been working with since then. And since 3 years back now, this is my full-time job. So I left the product development industry and am now fully focused on inspiring and informing young girls, mainly in Sweden, where I'm based, to explore their tech interests, so that everyone who has great potential to become valuable engineers and to create great value for all of society will actually do so.
That's great. So
of
yes.
course, yeah. Sorry.
No, please go ahead. Did I interrupt?
No, just coming back to your question now. That I guess that would be my my example of something that I think have made an impact and a change.
That's great impact. Your very personal one. Can you think of other initiatives, maybe or programs that you're aware of and are doing similar job or trying to have the same impact in the ICT sector?
Yeah, it's interesting, because we started Women Engineer back in 2008, so this is quite a long time ago. And at the time, there were no other initiatives, or very few, of this kind when it comes to inspiring women within the tech area. There were some groups or networks at universities, but not very big. We hadn't heard much of it, because obviously that was one of the first thing we did. First, we looked at, is this actually a problem, or is just what we're thinking? As an engineer, you want to look at the statistics and the facts. And once we got that confirmed, we looked around and tried to see what are other people doing. Is there anything happening within this area? And we didn't see much, actually. But since then, the development has been great. There are so many, at least in Sweden now, initiatives focusing on women and technology. We have an organization called PEP in Sweden, where high school girls get a mentor, being a female engineering student, who can coach and guide and inspire, which is a great initiative. We have another organization called Girls in STEM in Sweden, where engineering students are inspiring girls out at the schools. They're visiting schools and telling them what they're doing in their studies, which is also a good initiative. There are also more career-related initiatives. It's an organization called Teknikkvinnor, so tech women in Sweden. There was this woman who realized that there were no groups at Facebook, like open groups for women in tech. So she just created just one evening for fun, sort of. And then I think it was like a few weeks later, she had 30,000 members in the group. So it was a huge push from her network, and there was obviously a big lack of this, and she really found something, and there was a white spot for this. So I would say that there are a lot of initiatives here in Sweden, and Sweden, as one of the countries in the Nordics, we are traditionally very tech early adopters, very tech savvy. So I think it really makes sense that Sweden should be a role model for how to ensure a greater diversity within the tech field.
Very nice. Are there any specific policies that you're aware of in Sweden that targets like gender equality in ICT, or in that concern women in ICT, that you can share, if you're aware of anything?
Not anything in particular, apart from what's coming from the European level in terms of requirements, how to report on salary gaps and so on. So I know that and that's of course luckily being enforced all the time. I know there were some updates now earlier this year, which is, I think, really great. It makes it even easier for us at Women Engineer to work with the business world, and we see that there's a huge interest in getting involved in activities such as what we do. But otherwise, no, is it another country in the Nordics, which I can't really remember if it's Norway or another country, but they have a law when it comes to the distribution of men and women in the board of companies of certain sizes and so on, but we don't have that in Sweden.
I think it's Norway, I think.
Yeah, I think so, right?
And in terms of like emerging technologies, is there anything that you can think of that you think it might have a great impact in the future?
Well, I'd say that AI would be top of mind, of course. But that's what's so interesting, and I think we see that grow. All the discussions and the debate around the climate and what we need to do to take our responsibility to change the way things are going in the world. It's so much related to engineering, and engineers will be they will play a really key role in this work. So yeah, but just to give an example, I would say AI. I listened to this really interesting podcast the other day with Max Tegstedt, an AI savvy guy from MIT. He's a Swedish guy, but he's based at MIT. And obviously there are these terrible scenarios that we could be facing, but there are also so many opportunities and possibilities with the AI field. So I think we really need to secure that we have diverse perspectives when it comes to what AI can do for us, so that we take the whole population into consideration when we develop new services and products.
Great. I'm gonna go back to you again now and your background. Like, did you have any role models that became your sources of inspiration in the ICT, either in your national context or maybe from international? And how have they influenced your career?
It's a good question, and I've thought about it quite a lot. But I think that's probably one of the problems. I didn't have many role models. It might be because I'm living under a rock, but it could also be the fact that there are too few role models. So we just need to work on that. We need to highlight, and the work that you're doing with this project, I think it's really great, once again, because that's exactly what we need. So I can't say that I had any particular role models that led me to where I am today, other than like women in my closest closest to me, like my co-founder of Women Engineer, Emily Monleson. She's a fantastic inspiration. So I'd say that she's my role model. But we've been walking next to each other for 15 years. But I'd say she's probably my role model.
That's great. Then women empowering other women to work together.
For sure.
So, how important is diversity and inclusion in the ICT industry? We talked about it already. You mentioned earlier that you were the only one in the room, or you were one of the few. Do you consider it important? And what steps can be taken to encourage more women to enter and thrive in this field?
I think it's incredibly important. I think that female engineers will save the world. So we need to make sure that everyone who can become really great ones also have the courage, the information, and the confidence to explore that path. That's what I put all my my time awake on. So what was the other question again?
No, I was wondering if how important is diversity and inclusion in the sector, and the steps that we can take to get there.
The steps, of course. This is the only thing actually I want to push in this interview, is what we actually do in Women Engineer. So an action, a tangible action, because it's very easy to agree that this is an important topic. I hardly meet any people nowadays saying, objecting, saying that this is, not so relevant. The question is rather, how should we do it? So Women Engineer have a very tangible suggestion or idea or solution. What we're doing now, we have, since actually almost 10 years back now, we are arranging an initiative that we call Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. It was originally an event created in US, but we copied it and took it to Sweden, and we made our version out of it. And how we've designed it is that teenage girls, 13 to 19, which happen to be the time when girls tend to lose their tech interest. So there's actually girls and boys tend to have a very high and fairly similar tech interests in the younger ages, like when they're 10-year-olds. But then something happens when you enter your teenage period, and girls, both girls and boys, but primarily girls, they lose their tech interest. So
Mari, I think you're cutting down.
It makes me tick.
Mari, sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's rather about making sure that they keep an interest that they actually.
I think you're cutting down. Could you please repeat what you were saying earlier? You said that they lose their interest in tech when they turn 10, but we missed.
Yes. Yeah. Is the sound okay now? It's better?
I think it's better, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want our viewers to miss the answer because it's an important one, I think.
Thank you. So my point is that girls tend to lose an interest that they already had. It's not about creating an interest, it's about keeping it. So what we do with IGE Day, Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, is to allow teenage girls to simply visit a company, a workplace where there are lots of engineers, so that they can see what a day as an engineer could actually be like. And this both serves the purpose of highlighting role models, meeting an actual role model face to face, but it also addresses the problem with the definition of who can become an engineer, what does an engineer do? So once every year, we have this day. Are you still with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay, good. So one day a year, and next time will happen on March 22nd in Sweden. Girls, thousands of girls will at the same time visit different companies in different places across the country and meet an engineer and try out the life of an engineer for a day. So this is a really scalable initiative because the companies themselves are actually hosting the day. It's like my least busy workday of the year because I just prepare everything for it, and I meet together with a bunch of volunteers who are supporting me. So we connect the companies and we have them signing on. We have the igday.com, the website for this. And then we create like a web shop where the girls can check what companies are there in my neighborhood. And then it's just simply first come, first served. Then they sign up, gets a spot to visit a company nearby, and then the day takes place then. And all this activity is happening at the same time once a year. And then we put together a report because the companies, of course, they want to see okay, we welcomed just a small group of girls to our office, but on a large scale, since this happened on so many different places across the country, we can draw really interesting conclusions out of this. When we asked 2,000 teenage girls what they think about their tech and their feelings around technology, or how the day was and what they appreciated and what they disliked, etc., we can see so many interesting things. So we put this together in a report so the companies can take the report back to their managers or their leadership and say that this is what we contributed to. It has a really good, it's being very well received, and I think there's no limit for how big this initiative could be. But for now, we're only in Sweden. A long answer, I'm sorry, but this is what we do at Women Engineer.
It's very interesting initiative. That sounds great. Thank you for explaining and sharing. I think these are my questions for today. Would you like to add anything before we say goodbye?
No, not on top of my mind, but I'll probably come up with a bunch afterwards, but that's life. I'm okay.
Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. You can follow FEMIN-ICT on our social media and our website of the project. Thank you. Hello, Marie. I'm going to pass the floor to you. Could you please introduce yourself and your journey in the ICT sector? What motivated you to pursue a career in this field?
Thank you. Wonderful to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Well, my journey in this sector, it was a bit of coincidence, or it was not a very well-planned path. I just ended up here. It was a friend of my sister who studied the program that I chose here in Stockholm at the Royal Institute of Technology, where I'm based and brought up. So I studied design and product realization, so I'm a product developer. And yeah, it was a great combination of being, getting to be creative, but also use my,